Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for joining us today to another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son, George. I was my mother's caretaker after she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Unfortunately, she passed on 1/1/2020. We started TogetherForSharon.com in her memory. Today, I have such an honor to someone, and I say it a lot, but this person means a lot to me. It was one of the individuals I actually first met when I started deciding that it's not just about my mother and I anymore, not just about our journey, it's about everybody. And he just inspires me. I myself don't consider myself a musician, but I've been playing for 20 years, but I just play for fun. But this individual, again, is an expert, masterful musician. And I want to welcome Dan O'Brien on now from the DOB charity, who I, again, think of the world of because it's actually local, which is amazing. A lot of the areas, unfortunately, in my opinion, we don't have enough in South Florida. So by what you do, bringing attention and awareness, not just for yourself, but for so many, means so much to us all. So just again, welcome, Dan. Feel free to jump right in.
Thank you so much, George. I really appreciate you having me on your program. Great admiration for you and all you do also.
No, I appreciate it. And one of the first individuals I met in this new journey I partaked in last year, trying to reach out and share other individual journeys, was finding individuals who are very unique. I don't want to actually say different, but in an amazing way. But I don't see a lot of people standing up in the music field, and they have Parkinson's, many individuals, Ozzy Osbourne and things. But by you speaking out, standing up, doing the charity, not only does it raise awareness, but I feel it's changing lives. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself and also the charity, and then we'll get a little bit more about your background.
I would be delighted, my friend.
Thank you.
I've been a professional musician for my entire life, 50 years. Wow, it's been that long. It's amazing. And I was diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2012. I was up in Gainesville at the time, actually putting together a brand new music thing with some people, and developed a little twitch in my finger. Next thing you know, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And the reason that we started this whole charity, George, is because I saw there was a huge need on a local level where people could not afford either the medication or their rent because they weren't working as much as they were before. So we decided to put this whole thing together where what we do, every nickel that comes in goes out. Nobody takes anything for anything. So let's say somebody needs their pills paid for, we do it. Recently, we paid a girl's car payment and her house payment because it was either that or not have Christmas for her children. It's heartbreaking stuff, as you know. You've been there and seen it on the front lines. It's a horrible, horrible, hideous disease I wouldn't wish on anyone. But if you make the best of it and try to keep a positive attitude, you can accomplish great things. And the idea with our charity is to start it locally and hopefully over the years build it globally. I have some people in New York right now that are looking into starting something very similar. We try to stay focused on the South Florida area only because that's where we all live. So we'll help the people down. I mean, we'll help other people too if they reach out to us, but primarily the idea is to start a network of all these little communities all helping one another. That's pretty much it in a nutshell right there.
As you're speaking, maybe I can share it with everyone because I want everyone now to go to Dan's website, obviously after we're done talking, and please support him and also all he does. But here's the actual charity. So hopefully you can see it too, but DOB charity. And I've just been learning to integrate this. So DOBParkinsonscharity.com. Anyone can't locate it, you can also contact me. One thing I love, and I just signed up, is if you look here on the bottom left, it doesn't move, unfortunately, but you'll see
you can click that little thing there, George. It'll go away if you want it.
No, I want it to stay. That's what. Yeah, I like it. I wanted the show bigger, but if you click on the website, you'll see there's actually an event coming, and you can order tickets. It's on Sunday, April 28th, which is great because it's Parkinson's Awareness Month at 4:30. Very reasonable pricing at Crazy Uncle Mike. So if you're Actually, it's virtual too, I read. I could be wrong,
It
but
is.
so
Yep.
that's me. So there's no excuse for anyone listening to support Dan. My wife and I have bought tickets. We might not be in town, but if we are, we definitely want to be a part of it because there's nothing like the real seeing people in presence. Unfortunately, COVID put a setback on that, but now we're moving forward. But you can see Dan's charity. I don't know if he mentioned the mission. Maybe while I just show a little bit of this and I'll kind of scroll through our interview that you did, but maybe you could tell us a little bit about your diagnosis. And I know you also had DBS surgery, which is actually something I wanted to touch on, but I haven't with a lot of individuals because they just haven't had it yet.
Well, I jumped off of a stage in 2011. My leg gave out and it came down to my hand, my left hand. And when I got up, it hurt for a few days, that type of situation. And I didn't really think much about it. And all of a sudden, I developed a little twitch in my left index finger. And as I said before, I was on my way up to Gainesville to talk to some people about the Love and Spoonful band called the Love and Spoonful from the 60s. They're all friends. So I was going to go back out and do some playing with them. And one of my board members of the new foundation happened to know Dr. Michael Oken up there in Gainesville at Shands. And he got me an appointment. And I went in and was diagnosed with Parkinson's and completely flipped out when I got that diagnosis. Not something you want to hear, but
Yeah.
obviously. And from there, things just started snowballing. It became more and more difficult for me to go out and play my music. For a while, before I had the surgery, I was even, gluing a guitar pick to my fingers. It was that bad. And I realized, my touring days are pretty much over. So now what I do is I try to organize these events with different musicians. Everybody's been so great with this whole thing. It's incredible. All the local guys come together and they're willing to, donate their formidable talents. And we've raised some decent money so far, hoping to raise much more. We do 2 big events a year, and then we do 2 of these singer-songwriter ones that are a little bit smaller, but nonetheless valid. And that's what my life has become now. I've devoted my life to helping other people with this disease, as you have to finding a cure.
Right.
It's just a situation where you see people suffering with this that don't need to. Well, there's the 2 books.
And
You
how
can
did
read them. You don't even have to buy them. You can read them right online.
No, I appreciate that. And again, when you mentioned that you said your finger was moving uncontrollably, I think of last year, Mr. Michael J. Fox released his movie, and he actually started his journey the same way. So thank you for sharing that. And also, I think part of the big problem with awareness is we just don't have enough. So that's why I literally have done 50 podcasts on other people's stations of people who do not have Parkinson's and people who are not caretakers, because I find we need to get everybody involved to find a cure. And I'm upset in a way that I didn't even know about, not just you, but the charity for the last 4 years, because I would have loved to have met you then. That's why we're here today, everyone. And that's why we want you to share this podcast, support Dan. This is all about Dan today. I don't, as you all know,
It's all about the Parkinson's community, George.
right?
It's not
Well,
me. I'm the face. I'm the pretty face of it.
you're the inspiration though to me. And also one other amazing thing is Dan shared his book with me, which I actually read before we even knew each other. And I thought it was fascinating because it takes you really deep dive inside the world of DBS. And maybe if you could tell us actually first a little bit about the books, because there's more than one. And here you can see if you go to this website, DOB, parkinsoncharity.com/books/ you'll be able to read it. So I recommend to definitely go, and that's great for awareness too. But maybe you could tell us about how you were thinking when you were writing it, and what was the whole purpose. And you don't look a day old, man. You look the same. I see.
Thank you. The check's in the mail, pal. Well, the first one was called Candid Reflections, and that was 30 days of basically social media posting, just because I felt like it. One of the things that's happened with me with Parkinson's is I've always been relatively creative with the music, but I've never been a writer. And now I find myself inspired to write a lot. So that's where that one came from. It was just every day I'd put something down for Parkinson's Awareness Month. And then the second one was right after I had the DBS, meaning deep brain stimulation. If you'd like to see that in action, I'd be happy to show you that one too, George.
Yeah, let me leave here because then we'll get closer. We could always come back. So
Huh.
now, yeah.
Oh my God, who's that old man in the corner down there? All right, well, DBS involves implantation of leads into your head with wires that run down to a little pacemaker type device. Is generally put here in your collarbone area. Now they can do it in two different spots. They can do it in the subthalamic, which handles more tremor, which is what I was, or the globus area, which handles more of movement as far as dragging your feet and shuffling, that type of stuff. Recently, they just came out with a brand new one that can do both too. So anyway, I'll show you what this thing looks like. Now, no tremors, right? I'm going to turn this off for just a second. Here's my little remote. This is what I looked like before surgery. I mean, I can feel my posture and everything goes. You see, I'm starting to hunch over, and I am definitely not doing this on purpose.
Involuntary.
And now we'll turn it back on. Boink. Ta-da. It's crazy.
How does there's a lot of questions, but how you can't leave that device at all?
Oh yeah, I can throw that away if I want.
Don't
Once
do
it's
that.
on, it's on.
Right. And do you
I
have to
only, I'm sorry, go ahead, George.
you have to go back for any like revisions or re-surgeries or additional to no?
No. I mean, occasionally I'll go in and have one of the representatives from Boston Scientific, which was the company I chose because theirs is a rechargeable.
Mhm.
The other two companies that make it are called Abbott and who the heck is the other one? Medtronics. And there's the little device here that's implanted in your chest, has to come out every 2 or 3 years and be replaced. This one here, I have like a little yoke I put around my neck once a month, and it charges it up, and it's good for about 25 years.
Oh.
And these people are just amazing there too, what they do. Nicest people I've ever met in my life.
How many years did you have Parkinson's before you did the DBS surgery? And do you ever wish you had known about it earlier? Or are you okay with how it came I'm not sure how many years between, this time span.
Well, I had it for 9 years before I had the surgery. And as far as regrets, I try not to do them
Right.
on any way, shape, or form. I'm grateful. Remember when I went in for the surgery that morning, I said to my wife, Karen, if I can get one day of not having any tremors, I'll be happy. And here we are 3 years later.
Yeah.
I can, here, I'll give you a little demo on the youth. Huh?
Please. That's what I was looking.
But I couldn't do that before. I couldn't even hold the pick.
Oh.
It was horrible, just hideous.
What made you decide to finally do the surgery? Had you already been aware of it and kind of contemplated for some time or not? You just
I'd actually thrown a coin when it
right.
came up to it. There was either the DBS or was one called MRI guided ultrasound, which is an ablation therapy. And I chose the DBS because when they do come up with a cure, which hopefully I'll still be around for,
You will.
I can have this taken out and get the cure. But with ablation, once they burn that little section of the brain, that's it. I mean, it works great, non-invasive and all that, but I chose to go this way because Carlos Singer was my doctor too, and I respect everything he says. He kind of pushed me in that, not pushed me, but guided me in that direction.
Yeah, unfortunately, I know some of these medical terms, but I myself, obviously, I don't have Parkinson, but I had 2 spine surgeries last year.
Ooh.
They didn't even work, and I've had that ablation, but this is a different area of the body, and it seems like not like Parkinson, but they have many struggles with figuring out back pain. So it's going to be a tough summer for me, but if that doesn't work, I actually heard Abbott has a little box you can install also in your back for pain. So I might be joining you in that company, but
Do it.
yeah.
Do it.
But
Absolutely.
you have to make sure, you have the right doctor. So that's another issue. There's so many doctors now. Just
Well,
not sure
Boston Scientific has that same one.
how
So
they do.
Yeah, I'll look into that for you if you wish. I'll be
I
happy
appreciate it. We'll both be walking around with it like I'll be
to.
we're robots.
Hey, whatever it takes, man, whatever it takes.
Let's skip back for a moment. Thanks for that. To
Please.
your music career. Maybe if you want for a moment, because I think it's an amazing career. But maybe you could tell us a little bit. You already played a little, but some, your kind of music, what you like, who you might have played with, or just a little bit about your musical. Because I think that you have a lot of fans, popularity, and it's important for someone like yourself to speak out and not be shy. I've spoken to a few celebrities. You're my celebrity to me. But some of them are still like, I don't know, even my mother, I don't know if they weren't aware of Parkinson's when they found out they were diagnosed, maybe a little ashamed. A lot of people, of course, I respect privacy, but if we don't all work together again as a family and, fight back, I always say every morning I wake up and I think of you and all the people I've become like family with. And some nights I don't sleep because I want there to be a cure, and I won't rest until you all can. But I wonder if some of the other individuals, I won't name names, just aren't there yet. And we need them to jump on page. One's a very, very, very famous comedian. He just actually spoke to an agent and they're not ready to even talk about it, which is sad. But I think, again, we need everybody aboard to be able to, come closer to this cure.
I couldn't agree more. The problem with a lot of people is they become withdrawn. And as I'm sure you're well aware, the loss of dopamine is also the thing that controls a lot of your mood. Serotonin is involved in that. And when that's no longer there, people have a tendency to want to do nothing but sit on the couch. They don't want to help themselves or anything. And that's probably the worst part of this whole disease is the apathy and lack of energy, and all those things are just hideous to deal with. Now, a lot of my friends have made donations. A lot of my famous friends have made donations and stuff, but they really don't want to acknowledge the fact that I even have it because it's difficult for people. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm actually writing another book right now, and that's what it's about. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be picking your brain, so to speak, on this. It's
I love that.
the role of the caregiver or care partner and the role of people around you and how people see you and how people perceive you. I mean, I've had people come like I'm infectious or something, and I tell them all the time, you can't get it if I touch you.
I actually interviewed an individual because I reached all over the world. He lives in Africa, and they thought his mother had Parkinson's. They thought it was witchcraft, and they actually removed
Mhm.
her from the family and put her in a place, and he had to escape to go see her. So it's really misconceptions. And actually, I might be wrong, but I think I coined a term myself, but I think of it like as a obviously, I don't have Parkinson's, but I felt like it was secondary Parkinson's. If there's a word I can make up in the world, I'm gonna steal that because
Yeah.
before I was an advocate and a caregiver for my mother, I worked as a lawyer, police officer, and professor. But I worked with actually here in West Palm Beach, group of African American mothers who've lost their loved one due to murder, called Mama. And unfortunately, it was a horrible, situation. But a lot of the time, the criminal justice system forgets the family members of the victims. So I correlate until last year when we finally a bill is moving through, the United States political world to end the national plan to end Parkinson's disease, which I think should have been passed 20, 30 years ago. But
Absolutely.
it's going to the Senate, and our senators, just so you know, I spoke with them. They're both supporting it, so that's good for Florida. But so one thing that was, I thought of those victims because the family members, they're forgotten, but I felt like a lot of those diagnosed and caretakers are forgotten by our system. And finally, they're changing that. But as a caregiver sitting there holding my mother's hand, that last year was very horrible, the stage 5. And like I might not have physically inside had the tremors and the dystonia and those things, but I felt holding her hand the whole time I was right there, kind of feeling a lot of the same type of issues from depression and drained, just scared because I didn't know what we were told. You don't die of Parkinson's, you die with it. But as you know, it's so different for every individual. My mother didn't have the external shaking, so she wouldn't be a candidate for the DBS, but she did have internal. And like you mentioned, she actually felt like in a way sad or that no one would believe her or And her last year, I hope they're not listening, but her last year, some of her closest friends completely vanished, which was really sickening to me. And I think in a way, I don't blame them, but they might have just didn't know how to deal with it.
They
That's
were frightened. They were
so.
scared.
Uh, and my mother was only 69, which is
Oh,
really,
wow.
so
Younger than me. I'm 70.
you look 25. I feel 90. So
Yeah.
that, so on another friendlier note, I wanted to maybe, I don't want to put you on the spot, but show some of the guitars because I know music's a big part of your life. I have a Yamaha, Ibanez. I have like 10 guitars. They're all probably dusty in boxes now.
Now let's see what we got here.
Gibson.
I got a Takamine over here hanging
Oh,
out.
it's beautiful.
Nice little guitar.
Nice.
Most of them are in that other room, which I really can't get to because I got things piled in front, but I've got 42 total.
And also, I love the cats. We have 2 cats. I'm
Oh,
a
yeah.
big cat fan.
It's a nice little guitar, though.
What was the first song you ever wrote?
Oh, good God. The first one I ever wrote was probably, believe it or not, about my mother because
Okay.
she passed away when I was very young. Matter of fact, that's her picture up there on the corner. You may be able to see
I
it.
see it. Oh,
Yeah, I was 12 years old when she passed. And that's why I ended up playing music. I was, had no interest in it up till then. I mean, I enjoyed listening to it, but I had no idea where it was going to take me. And I got to tell you, George, playing music is the best thing in the world, no doubt, as you know, on any level. I mean, I've been on a stage in front of 100,000 people and I played in front of 2 people. And it's all good. Doesn't matter. It really and truly doesn't matter. Playing from here, play from your heart, enjoy what you're doing, and enjoy the fact that you can give that gift to somebody else. I mean, I started a lot of people off in music that are now really, really famous, like guys with Lenny Kravitz and Spin Doctors and all that type of stuff. I mean, these guys all grew up together and they all wanted to play. And I was few years older, so I was like the mentor to most of them. Crazy how it worked out.
you need to get some of them down to South Florida.
I do. I know I do.
So the next area that I was curious is there's been a lot of advances, obviously, and sadly, for my family, but in understanding Parkinson's. But now we know that music, dancing, fitness, exercise, eating is all going to possibly slow the progression down. How do you think that music can affect an individual with Parkinson's today? I know it's probably difficult to play, but how do you think in music? I mean, instruments might be tough, but how do you think music plays a role in maybe slowing down the progression? Do you think it does or not really?
I do. Do you mind if I show that book?
No, please do. That's what we're here for you. And
Oh,
again, I
oh,
love doing these because we have so many. Last week we did one with a comic for Parkinson, but I haven't met anyone so different and amazing like you, and this is fun.
well, here's a book right here that I picked up recently about music. There, that question you just asked. Matter of fact, I'll order you a copy if you want.
Hi,
It's an excellent, excellent guidebook. The lady who wrote it, there was a movie called Awakenings years ago with De Niro and
Robin
Robin
Williams.
Williams in it. And she was involved in the original studies in that. She's the first licensed for real musical therapist in the United States. And this woman is just a saint. She sent me the book for free and is giving me some courses. So to answer your question about it, yeah, I think music plays an integral part in Parkinson's because music is the only thing that we do, whether we play it or listen to it, that uses our entire brain. So you can just because substantia nigra area is being affected with dopamine doesn't mean that the whole brain is. There's other areas you can tap into. I mean, we use such a minuscule percentage of our brain to begin with, some less than others, but to be able to tap into those areas via music is just incredible. And the camaraderie you get, the fact that people step outside themselves a little bit when they play, even if they don't play well.
Yeah.
I've been in a hospital where I played for neonatal intensive care children. that can't even speak, obviously. They're screaming their brains out because they're in such pain. You walk in, you play the itsy bitsy spider for them, and they're quiet. It's incredible. Music is the most powerful tool out there, I think, better than any pharmaceutical thing you could possibly take.
And my mother, I'm from New York originally, Brooklyn. So we used to go to Broadway. So we liked all the musicals. And my mother brought me to Cats. I've seen everyone, Phantom, Fiddler, all of them. But unfortunately, when my mother was in her last days, if you go to TogetherForSharon.com and go to the bottom, we had a music therapy for my mother. And some days it was too tough because she was too sick, but some days she would listen. But I just had a great opportunity. I said, why don't I just play the song Memory? Because my mother took me to Cats when I was a kid. It was her favorite song. So the you'll see the music therapist is singing because I can't sing, and but I got to play on the guitar with her, and it's
Beautiful.
the thing is it's not even that. At the end, you might not hear it, but my mother's that was the week before she passed, and she lost the ability to really talk. But she did say thank you, and I loved it, and those were like her last words ever. But we got it on. She's not in the video. I don't want to show her because she had lost so much weight. But you'll see the video, and that's the reason why I'm such a for and so important with for music therapy for everything, not just Parkinson's.
Well, that's such a special thing to be able to share too with your mother.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
And
as heart wrenching and horrible and traumatic as it was, George, you're very fortunate to be able to have those last moments.
yeah, especially on video because the last year I documented the video, but I won't share it because I don't want it to be remembered. I always say Parkinson does not define you. You know, you might have it, but it's not who you are. So you have to keep fighting it. And
Right.
she fought to the last minute, but we didn't win the fight. But like I said, everyone I meet now, like you, become family because this means a lot. And as you just together, our voices are always so much stronger. And neither of us do this obviously for money.
No.
We'd be both homeless, but I just do it because I just am so fascinated by how many incredible people are out there that I would never have met if it wasn't for our journey and my loss, but it turned it in somehow into positive. And so I've met over 600 people and we're going to the Unity Walk for the first time. It's the 30-year anniversary. COVID destroyed the walk, but now thankfully Michael J. Fox Foundation picked it up and it's in Central Park. So it's going to be a special time. Unfortunately, it's the same weekend as your event, which I'm
That's
excited.
okay.
But even
Hey,
if
when
I,
you're in
I
Central
might
Park,
try even for like 10 minutes if I could just make it to say hi
oh,
and
hey,
you'll be
there'll be
busy.
more. There'll be
We need
plenty
a
more.
pic. I actually want a picture with you. Bad.
Well, when you're in Central Park, there'll be a bench there that's dedicated to a friend of mine. His name is
Well,
Frank Annunziata. It's
nice.
a mouthful of a name. But we played together in bands for years, and Frank died unexpectedly 2 years ago.
Sorry to hear that.
So if you see that bench,
Sure, I'll take a picture.
please.
Well,
You know,
you're always with me anyway, so I'll definitely think of you that day because that's going to be a walk for everyone, going through Parkinson's caretakers and those that have been lost. And that's what the whole purpose is. So very
now,
important.
do you have something set up yourself, George, for taking donations for that or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, we actually have, if you go to our website and click donations, and you're on my page too, but I believe under DOB, if not, we have to add you today. But so I work closely with a few organizations like Michael J. Fox. When I had been going through all this with my mother, I called a lot of people, but no one really showed up except for the American Parkinson's Disease Association. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, when they came over, it was too late. They wanted to do like exercise and she was too sick, but it meant a lot to me. So we've donated over $15,000 just for my family over the years.
Beautiful.
But then I learned how many others, and it's hard because I do these podcasts. We're up to this is episode 9, but every person I meet touches my heart, and I want to like give them anything I can. One of them does T-shirts. You'll notice, and he just made the Together for Sharon mug, and we just put it out today. And I need a mug for sure. I have my mug collection.
I'll have to get you one of these too.
Yeah, I'll put it
I'll
on,
do
but
a shirt now,
that's
a
awesome.
bunch of stuff.
He, any money that anyone buys, like it goes to him. Like I will not accept, so because he can't even afford medication. For
That's
one,
right.
when my mother was suffering at her worst, she couldn't even sleep because it was a lot of stomach issues from the medicine. We had to pay $12,000 a month just to have people I don't call them caretakers. They were more like babysitters just so she wouldn't fall.
Mhm.
And reasonable people cannot afford that. And that's why we need that, legislation passed and people like you and what you do. And we're all grateful for that. Here's an interesting question. Obviously, DBS is a tough thing to fight on your own. So my question is, who is like, imagine your horse, your companion, your horse, if you're riding in the whole Wild West. My wife is my, partner for life. She was also one of my mother's best friends, but do you have somebody who, held your hand and was your support through some of the?
I do. I have my lovely wife, Sharon. Now we've been together for this year will be 43 years.
And
still,
happy Valentine's Day to both of you.
I'll be taking her out to dinner someplace later on, wherever she would.
We better keep watch of the time or she'll be mad at me.
George, you mentioned exercise earlier too. Let me touch on that real briefly.
Sure.
A lot of people, when they get this disease, don't want to exercise because you're tired all the time. But if you force yourself, you'll find out that it's probably second only to music as far as therapeutic. I go twice a week to a place called Dr. Physio on Federal Highway. Oh, great guy. Lenny's a great guy. Yeah. Super human being all the way around. And we actually pay for people who can't afford PT there. Like if somebody comes in and their insurance runs out, we'll pick up the tab for it. But exercise is everything. Exercise and positive attitude and not letting it get you. I mean, I know it's easier said than done, especially when you get towards the later stages of it. But if you don't fight it, it's going to win. And it's going to take you over. It's going to take your whole life over. And I have way too much to do before that happens. And I'm not going to let it do that to me. And I'm not going to let it bother my wife. That's what the whole object of the third book is going to be. Like you said before, it's going to be about caregivers and partners and how people perceive you, how you perceive yourself. It's going to be called My Shrinking World. Interesting working title, but that's what happens. I mean, my phone was ringing off the hook before. Now I got a core group of people I speak to on a regular basis. And I just spoke to somebody with Parkinson's who was recently diagnosed right before we started this interview. Mm-hmm. I'll get 3 or 4 of those a day at least. It's amazing how many people have this.
Yeah,
it's only getting worse.
Hey, even people I just meet, they might not have it or family, but now the neighbors have it. And then the neighbors' cousins and this and that, it's the fastest growing neurodegenerative disease in the world, I believe, which is approximately 1 million in the US, 10 million in the world. So it's a lot of people. And that's why we have to keep doing. I always joke to myself and say, George, Parkinson's disease doesn't take a break, so I can't either.
Well, you work tirelessly, my friend, and I appreciate this person with this.
Well, imagine it, when you have the good guy and the devil and the angel. I always see like the good, all of you are on my in a shoulder, and this, I just won't stop until we have a cure because I don't want all of you to have to keep dealing with it. I always tell my daughter, she was about 4 or 5 then, now she's or 6, and now she's 11. And I look at her and I think, will you, I don't say it, but will you continue TogetherForSharon.com when I'm no longer here? And then before I say it, I say to myself, wait a minute, F that. I don't want there to be Parkinson's and I want it to be over. I want it to cure. We'll leave the website fine for my mother and me, but I want it to be ended. So I hope she never has to do that. So that's why we, keep
fighting. Amen to that, my friend. Amen to that.
Just a few more things, because I know how time. One thing, this is specifically for you, and I missed it because I added a few more questions after I had interviewed you on the website. But if you had this is tough. If you had one song that would tell us more about representing your whole life, what song would it be? Tough one. I don't want this to be a Barbara Walters moment where
I don't know. The first one that comes to mind is probably Tears in Heaven.
Yeah.
That
was a sad. That was that whole story.
But
can you play it?
I can't sing it, but I can play it.
Can we hear a minute?
Sure.
Last request. I won't ever have somebody who could play guitar, probably.
I can't sing it anymore.
I never could, so that's perfect.
I used to sing just like them.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Here, I gotta give her, this is a round of
You, that
applause.
was the abbreviated version.
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
That's one of the things I've found just in the last 3 or 4 years. My voice is
Boy,
completely shot. Now, I was also assaulted in front of my house in 2016, strangled half death.
you didn't tell me
So
that.
that
Sorry.
didn't help. That didn't help. Well, that's all right. You know,
What city are you in? Oh, don't tell me after we're not recording.
that's so
I wish it was in my city. That wouldn't, I would be the first one. You wouldn't be having that.
it'll never happen again. I'll tell you that. I'm also a second degree black belt in martial arts, which makes no sense.
Right.
I turned my head to see where my wife
Yeah.
was. I mean, that's when I got it. But now I don't go anywhere without the old trusty Glock.
That's that's for a different podcast. But I
Yep,
am proud to be a Floridian, that's for sure.
no doubt about it.
Some other areas, what are your, I know the charity is very important to you and to me, but what are some of the future goals for your programs and anything in besides the book that you have in mind, like maybe some other events coming that you like to share?
As I said before, we do 2 big events a year at Mike's, Crazy Uncle Mike's there. And then we have the 2 singer-songwriter events that we do, and that's up at a place called Sharky's up in Coral Springs. Both great venues, really nice people that donate the time for us. I would like to just, as you spread awareness about this whole disease, there's so many people that just don't know about it or don't know enough about it. Let's put it that way. They may know about it, in a passing way, but unless you're in it, you really don't have the good sense of it. And I want to try and help as many people as I can that do have it and to, champion awareness like you do. I mean, I'll never be like you with that. You're amazing, but
I don't know about that. I'm still learning every day from everyone I meet.
that's what it is. Life's a learning experience. And just be the nicest person you can, the best person you can. Don't do any harm to anybody else. And that's pretty much it for me. Stay
Yeah,
happy.
I put the website up a few years ago and never really did much with it. I just thought at least a few people, 50 people might see. And the other day we checked some reason and there were over 30,000 people visited the site. And I don't
Wow.
even know why. So it means a lot.
Well, if you ever need anybody to help you with that, I have a guy who does ours now. His name is Dave Jacobs, and he's incredible with that stuff. And he donates all his time to us.
Yeah, that's beautiful. We need everybody in this fight. How about let's see, there's only a few more things. One is a tough question, but like I told you, I focus on this group, but how do we get individuals who are not diagnosed or do not have loved ones with Parkinson's to be aware and to get more involved?
Well, that's kind of my job. That's why we do these events. Every time we have something, I give a little talk about it before, after. I try to get people like yourself to come and be guests, people from Boston Scientific. Neurologists have been there. Carlos Singer came one year. We're going to try to get Dr. Velez down there to come this year. But the whole idea is you want to just keep beating people over the head with it until they understand it. It's just ridiculous how many people have no idea what it involves. They all think, oh, you're shaking. And that's the easy part, quite frankly. Tremors are not that bad compared to the rest of it, as well know.
If you I have people, individuals or friends now, like family that have young onset, and they're actually getting appointments about the DBS. Do you have any advice for someone who has, been diagnosed and might be considering the surgery? Maybe because I asked one specifically. I'm going to tell her what you said later. But do you have any advice?
Don't wait.
Yeah, don't wait.
Do it now. Because if you don't, every day that goes by is another day you're going to be suffering with this, and a day of your life you'll lose. Certainly is not a cure, as we both know, but it's a wonderfully effective treatment. And I would do it again tomorrow. I'm asked all the time whenever I give one of these little speeches or talks in front of people. They'll ask me, would you do it again? And it's like, yep. I mean, it's amazing. I was going to bed like that and waking up like that every day of my life. And to not have that is just such a blessing.
I'm
Um,
surprised. It must be difficult to sleep with the uncontrollable before you had.
Horrible. I did put my hand under a pillow and then my head on the pillow. It's just hideous. Go to bed like that, wake up like it.
Oh,
And I was taking 20 pills a day. Now I take zero,
wow.
no medication at all.
I think they should hire you for advertisement, but pay you a lot. Because I think the problem is people just still, again, not just about Parkinson's, they're just not aware. And that's, with this podcast, hopefully we'll share it. And, obviously that's not the main focus. It's more about your work and the guitar and everything else and the DBS, but that might be something that you already wrote the book. So we need to get that book out there more.
Well, I'm working on Boston Scientific right now to become a sponsor for our charity too.
I'd love to speak to them, but they're hard. No one responds. All the big pharmaceutical companies, I try to reach out so they can share what they do, but haven't had much luck. But it's a shame because I don't know, I guess they have rules and things, but people would love to hear from like even a panel. We could get in one of these Zooms of everybody and just talk about what it is. And because there's so many people who are curious, but maybe too scared to call the doctor because, when you do make that step, it's like you are going ahead, full force. Obviously, you don't have to, but I think the people who do check into it and go to the doctor are really serious. And those that are kind of want to do it, but they're timid and don't want to, they're not sure, or not even looking for it or even listening, into it.
I'll be happy to give you a lady's number from Boston Scientific, and she
Oh,
always answers the phone.
oh, that's great. So on that note, do you have anything that you wanted to kind of just tell everyone about before we conclude today? I know that big event's coming in April for Parkinson's Awareness Month. Is there any other, and the book is coming, which I'm going to share when it is out. Please let me know. And I actually have my book is done, but it's not going to be out. If you know how it is, publisher, and I don't know who knows when, but I want you to read that. And you're actually, I didn't tell you this, but I think I did tell you. I thanked you in my book
Oh,
because
wow.
people like you and all the individuals I've met. Like I said, I think about you a lot, even if we don't catch up sometime, because I know you're busy or things like that. Maybe say hi on social media, but you're in my heart, and my family always sends our love and support.
Thank you, George. That means the world. It really and truly does.
No, I appreciate it.
I appreciate you more than you know.
Thanks.
We need more people like you out there.
I appreciate it. So, did you have any last minute advice or any last minute,
Stay happy and stay positive, stay engaged in the world. Get out, go to dinner, go out with friends. The more you isolate yourself, if you have this, is not a good thing. And if you don't have it, then learn more about it. And don't be afraid of people that do have it. They're not going to infect you. You're not going to get it if they touch you or anything like that. Be nice to each other. That's all. It's real simple.
No, thank you. And I always have these final words after every time I meet with someone. We love you. This goes for Dan, your family, and everyone listening. And please share this again. We only can get the word out if everybody also shares this to the whole world, not just here in the US, but everywhere. We love you. We support you. We care a lot about you, and you're never alone. Dan and I and everyone else will advocate for you, and together our voices are so much stronger. We're a family in this fight. And I always say I'm just getting started, even though I'm not. But I feel like every day you wake up, it's another fight and another journey that we have to continue. And the only journey that breaks my heart is the one that I don't know about. So I wanted to thank Dan, thank all of you for listening. This has been another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son, George. And I just look forward to many more great memories together, Dan. And again, grateful for your time today. And thanks everyone again for listening. We love you all, and we're not going anywhere. We're going to keep fighting until we find one day that there's a cure. And Dan and I will write a book together about finally
I
finally
love it.
achieving the cure. So thanks again.
Thank you, George. You're the best.
Thanks.